Mr. Michael Foley is going to be speaking to us today. For everything, there is a season, is the topic of Michael's talk today. He is a storyteller and motivational speaker. He is a coach and trainer. He founded Clarity Central, a training and corporate team building organization. And just a couple of things I wanted to share off his website that really spoke to me. People, when they were giving reviews of sessions or workshops that they'd attended or keynotes with Michael, a couple of people had these responses. His enthusiasm and zest for life is contagious. And I would say contagious, but in a quiet way. And the other thing that I thought was really great was careful. Knowing this man can challenge your comfort level. So with that, I would like to bring up Mr. Michael Foley. Help me welcome him.
Wow, what an introduction. Feeling a lot of pressure suddenly, Laura. Okay, so let's just get grounded here. So why don't we just take a deep breath, close your eyes, just take a big deep breath in. And just one more just like that. Just with your eyes closed, just take a deep breath. And just let yourself sink into your chair. And let this be the one time during your week where you just stop. Where you fully arrive from your busy week. You release all that tension, the stress of your daily life, rushing from place to place. Just for this hour, let's just make an agreement with you. Just let it go. Let it all go. And I encourage you to take this hour and just receive, to let go of the need to be anywhere or do anything. Just to receive. So one more big, deep breath, just like that. Okay. Well, good morning. I'm Mike Foley, and before I get started with the talk for Everything There's a Season, I'd first like to introduce some dear friends of mine. First, Michael Wagner. Michael is going to be our musician today. Michael is a songwriter, and you're going to be hearing 3 original songs from Michael today, so it's going to be quite a treat. And then Judy Wagner, Michael's wife, is going to be giving us a wonderful meditation as well. So before we get started, why don't we turn it over to Michael?
Good morning. Good morning. Is this on? Green light is on. Not time for the meditation yet. Time for a reading. Ecclesiastes 3:1. For everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to harvest. A time to die and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. To all things, there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven.
Wow. You know, when I started putting this talk together, I agree with Michael. This has just been downloading all week, and it's all for you. And when I started with that line, it just, doesn't that sound exhausting? You know, time to hate, a time to love, a time for war, a time for peace. And what just kept coming to me as I was putting this talk together is that it's the mandala, you know, that phrase from the Ecclesiastes is actually the mandala from the Hindu tradition. If some of you know what that is, it's a wheel. It's the wheel of life, and it's living and dying, and joy and pain, and war and peace, and it's the rim of life. It's the drama of life. And so just as I contemplated the mandala all week, it got me going in a completely different direction than what I thought I was going to talk about with the seasons, but it does relate. And at the center of the mandala is the immortal hub, the immovable, immortal hub. It's the divine. So this is the drama of life. And what Judy was talking about there was exactly what's on the rim of the mandala. And what I'd like to talk about today is how do we move from the rim, the drama, the everyday ups and downs, and back and forth to the immovable, immortal hub. And you can see this, in our everyday lives. We get that job, that rewarding relationship, and then our health fails. Or we win the lottery, and then we go broke. I mean, how many times have we seen someone win the lottery, and they buy everything, they give all their money out, and they buy the bowling alley, and then, you hear 2 years later they're broke, all right? And this is the wheel of life. And Eckhart Tolle says, the entire history of mankind can be summed up as one damn thing after another. And I read that, I'm like, that is so true. And James Cameron, a perfect example of this is James Cameron, the director of Titanic. Do you guys remember this? This is go back to like 10 years. And he wins the Academy Award. He goes, I'm king of the hill. The next day, his wife divorces him. Literally the next day. And this is living on the wheel of life. We're up, we're down. And funny enough, this week I heard this, everything's been downloading all week. I heard this Frank Sinatra tune, and it just was perfect. And it goes, that's life. That's what people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. But I know I'm going to change that tune when I'm right back on top in June. I've been a puppet, a pauper, a pirate, a poet, a pawn, and a king. I've been up and down and over and out. But I know one thing. Each time, I'll leave it to Michael. I find myself flat on my face. I pick myself up and get back in the... isn't that Ecclesiastes? Exactly, we're up, we're down. So the question here that I'd like to explore today is, what if it was possible to transcend the drama? What if it was possible to live in the world but not be of the world? What if it was possible to have the wheel of life going all the time, but you're right in the immovable, immortal hub as life goes all around you, including your life? What do you think it's possible? I don't know. Let's find out. So, when we live on the rim of life, not knowing our real identity, that's when life is tough. That's when we're identified. If we're identified on the rim, we will have ups and downs and back and forth. And our real identity is the immovable, immortal hub. And the test for this, and it's a little simple test, is to see how close we are to the hub and it's just a simple question. How often do you find yourself upset? How often do we actually find ourselves upset? And it doesn't mean that we repress our emotions or repress. That's not it. It's we're fully in the world, fully experiencing the world, but we're not resisting life. We don't have a bunch of shoulds. Here's how life should be, and we're fighting life all the time. And the degree to which we're at the hub is where you're going to find that peace. And all you have to do, if you want to see people living on the rim, all you have to do is turn on the TV. We got nothing but 24/7 living on the rim with reality TV. We got housewives, now we got mob wives, now Dog the Bounty Hunter, Jerry Springer. Ever notice in Jerry Springer, these people look alike. They're throwing the chairs at each other. You never see a Buddhist monk and one of these other people that throws the chairs. It's like attracts like. And it's living on the rim of life, living on the rim of the highs and lows. And in fact, my friend Peter and I were just commenting, we saw at 270, there was a TV show where it was a banquet for retired football players. 2 75-year-old guys got into a brawl at this banquet. One guy had his walker, and the other guy had his cane. And they're whack, and they were serious, all right? So that's living on the rim. Now the hub, not such, and that makes great for great TV, doesn't it? But it doesn't make for, the hub doesn't make for very good TV. The hub, not so much. A few years ago, I went to see Eckhart Tolle. And he's the guy that wrote that Power of Now book. And he comes out, he's a very, just a kind of tiny guy. He There's no introduction, nothing. He just, it's like 500 people. He comes on the stage, and he comes up, and he just sits there for like 5 minutes, and then he goes, if you came for a motivational speaker, I don't do that. And that would be living at the hub, all right? So, perfect example. Doesn't make for great TV, though. So, the big question is, how do we move from the rim to the hub of life? How do we do this? And I really meditated on this all week, and I really believe that, just like Michael, whatever came to me this week, it's really for each of us to explore. So the message is tailored for every single person here. And the thing that came to me, number one, is to wake up. First of all, we have to wake up. Wake up. We're on the rim of life. And one of my favorite movies is Joe versus the Volcano. And in this, the Meg Ryan character says, "My father says almost the whole world's asleep. Everybody you know, everybody you see, everybody you talk to." He says only a few people are awake, and they live in a state of constant, total amazement. Isn't that, boy, what a mantra that would be. Constant, total amazement. So, wow, I love reading that. So, I've noticed that life is always trying to wake us up. Always trying to wake us up. And for some of us, we like the gentle tap on the shoulder. Wake up, and we just go, oh, hey, it's time to wake up. And for others, like myself, we like kind of the, hey, wake up. And if we don't listen, have you noticed it gets louder? That's how much life loves us. Hey, and sometimes it's like the cosmic shoe to the back of the head, for me anyway. So, yeah, that's how I like it. And so we'll get to self-acceptance in a little bit here. So years ago, I was barreling down the wrong path in life, barreling, and I mean full tilt down the wrong path. And life was getting louder and louder. Hey, you're going down the wrong path. And I was a sales engineer for GE, and I was the full-on yuppie with the blue suit and the white shirt and the red tie and the wingtips back in the late 80s. And they shipped me out to Nebraska, and to cover Nebraska, and I was selling MRIs and CAT scanners and mammography units and X-ray equipment, that type of thing. And I heard of from Chicago is where I moved, and I heard this opportunity of this mammography unit like 300 miles out in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. So I get my suit on, I get my brochures, and I'm driving for 300 miles, and I'm studying as I'm getting there. And so I get there, and I meet up with these two nurses out in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, and I'm like 20-some, 25. They're probably like 50 at the time, and tough. I mean, really tough. And so they're chewing the gum, and I've got my little brochures. So the image quality on this is just fantastic. The doctors are going to be able to see, any stenosis or any indications of cancer. And then on top of that, it has a pneumatic paddle which pushes down onto the soft tissue, makes it very comfortable for the client. So they're chewing the gum, and they go, "Hey, Sonny, if it's so comfortable on soft tissue, why don't we take your soft tissue and let's try it?" And it was one of those moments in life where it's like suddenly like everything comes into full focus, and it's like, I've gone down the wrong path in life. What? I'm in the middle of Nebraska getting totally dissed by these nurses, and selling something I didn't really care that much about. So like a week later, I was in a meeting, and I literally got up from the meeting, walked out of the meeting, got in my car, I was up here, and I drove over to Stillwater and sat by the river for like 2 hours just contemplating life. Life had shaken me, and it wasn't just that instant, it was building up to that. And from that point, I started going in, and I didn't know where it was going to go, but something woke up in me, and it hasn't stopped since. So wake up, wake up, wake up. And I would just say that life is absolutely, in that Joe versus the volcano, he refers to it there, life is immense. It's immense. And how much of this immense life are we actually living? It's so possible to live in the immensity of life, but for many of us, if we're not awake, we live in a small world. So it's about embracing the immensity of life. At the end of the movie in Joe versus the Volcano, I love it. He's shipwrecked. He's lost all his money. He's out in the